This is Joe Meyer, founder and CEO of ExecThread, and I'm next on the RecTech podcast.
Welcome to RecTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
That's right. It's time for RecTech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. If you listen, you'll hear both recruiters and HR tech vendors talk about how they use tech to find talent. Today's show is a vendor edition. The RecTech podcast is sponsored by our friends at Jobs in the US. If your company needs to hire more local talent, jobsintheus.com lets you post for free on their national job search engine. They also operate 51 local state sites for every state in the country, including Washington, D.C. They've been around since 1999, and the job boards they power will help you connect with more local talent. Again, learn more at jobsintheus.com. All right, so my guest today says, quote, executive recruiting hasn't changed in decades and isn't designed to address the unique and evolving needs of senior-level professionals and hiring managers. We saw an opportunity to disrupt the global talent acquisition market, which is loaded with inefficiency, through a unique give-to-get model that provides professionals with far greater access to hidden career opportunities and traditional recruiting methods, end quote. Joining me now from the New York City offices of ExecThread is Joe Meyer. Joe, welcome to RecTech. It's nice to have you.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So I got lots of questions for you. I'd like to start at the beginning, I guess, around the origins of the business. Tell us kind of how it all got started, if you would.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was getting my MBA at the Wharton School, my professors would always teach us to not put ourselves in the target market of whatever new venture we were going to start because we were outliers. But in this case, I am the target market. So what I mean by that is I was at Apple by way of an acquisition, and I was planning my exit from Apple after being there for a little while and was starting to think about my next career move. And I hadn't job searched in a little while, and not at the executive level in a little while. But I started doing what every other executive does, or most every other executive job seeker does, which is, you're not necessarily going to job boards. You're not going to Indeed or Career Builder or even LinkedIn to find jobs at the executive level. What you're doing is you're networking like heck to try to find word-of-mouth opportunities from people in your network, which is a long, laborious process, needle in the haystack, or you're hoping you get approached by executive recruiters with opportunities targeted to you. The problem with that is that both are incredibly inefficient, and both don't give you, the job seeker, the person who has to fill that role, any control over the process. And it's a very inefficient process that oftentimes doesn't yield the best results. So for me personally, I found myself 2 to 3 months into the process of trying to find and discover jobs. And I was really no further along than when I started. And the thing that's amazing about it is that you spend all this time and energy in leveraging connections and your network just to find out where the open recs are because they're not posted anywhere. The vast majority of the best jobs at the executive level are unpublished, not listed. You can't find them on any website or job app. Right. And to me, that felt really inefficient and ineffective.
Okay. So I get that. I know, and referrals overall are definitely a big part of how many companies hire. But like you said, at the executive level, they're a little more hidden. So what did the business begin to take shape as? I mean, did you build some kind of email list or something to start? Tell us more around that.
Yeah. So I came up with I had two premises at first. One is I come from the e-commerce, ad tech, and location-based services background. My last 3 startups have been all about leveraging data and building profiles on our users behind the scenes in order to target messages and offers to them in a more targeted manner. So, for example, we're all Amazon and users, for example, and Netflix users, and when we go onto those sites, those very intelligent companies serve us opportunities to engage with them based on what they know about us, right? And that concept doesn't, that concept doesn't exist in the executive search arena. So, I knew that the ultimate solution to the challenges of executive search, which ultimately comes down to poor targeting of candidates to jobs, would ultimately, if you get access to intent data, then you could start building some really good profiles on executives and target to them better. But I didn't know how to do that at first. The other premise I had when I started this was, executive recruiters reach out to me. I'm an operating executive with jobs that they think are a good fit for me. But oftentimes the jobs they reach out to me for, while they're great jobs, they're not what I want to do next. And they're targeting those jobs to me based on what I've done historically, based on what's written on my LinkedIn profile, not on what I want to do next. They don't even know if I'm in the market for a job, and they don't even know what type of job I'm looking to do next. So for me, what I said was, I know what I want to do next better than anyone, and I know what I'm capable of better than anyone. But the problem is I can't get access to the jobs because I'm in reactionary mode. So I thought to myself, how can I get access to jobs that I'm qualified for without waiting for an executive recruiter to send them to me? And I thought, my peers, other C-level, C-suite executives throughout cities like San Francisco and New York and Boston are probably hearing about job opportunities that are a good fit for them, and they're probably a good fit for me. So maybe we can collaborate and work together and share the job opportunities with one another. And that was the genesis of ExecThread. Literally a listserv that, pulled the knowledge of executives together and enabled executives to contribute all the jobs that were coming across their desk that were great jobs that they weren't interested in pursuing, but that their peers could very well be a better fit for. And at this point, ExecThread is the largest aggregator of unpublished, non-listed jobs in the world. We've created a community of executives throughout the world that are all contributing the jobs that they're getting approached for, but not interested in pursuing, into a clearinghouse called ExecThread. And then the members of ExecThread can pull job opportunities out of that clearinghouse that they're a better fit for that wouldn't have otherwise come across their desk.
Okay, so your members go and essentially post these to ExecThread. Is it just simply as cutting and pasting a job description from somewhere, or is it just are they writing sort of a lead for you?
They don't do anything. All they do is forward email threads that they get from people in their network or from recruiters approaching them for jobs. They forward it on to us, and we do the rest. And we create structured, attributed, tagged job opportunities, and we redisseminate those out back to our community of members. And we've created a pretty slick and unique point system, sort of a virtual currency that facilitates the give to get model. So in other words, if I contribute jobs into the ExecThread network, I get credit for that. And then I can use those credits to take jobs out of the network. So when we share job opportunities with our members that all of the members are contributing, we don't disclose the name of the hiring company or the recruiting firm working on that search or the hiring manager. We don't even have an apply experience, which is rather unique. What we do is we tell you a lot about that job. We tell you the title, the function, the role, the geos, the size of the company, the stage of the company, the industry. And with that information, you know a lot about that job. And if you're either more or less interested in it. If you're more interested in it based on that information we're sending you, then you redeem a point to find out the name of the hiring company. Once you know the name of the hiring company, you are either going to be, again, more or less interested. If you're more interested after finding out the name of the hiring company, you exchange another point and you find out the name of the recruiter and the hiring manager. And because all executives or most executives are, highly networked people, we give them the information they need to know to figure out how to get their foot in the door. And then they can start leveraging relationships now that they know where the open recs are. And before ExecThread, there was no way to find out where the open recs are.
Okay. You mentioned intent data just before. So does that mean you're going to be kind of building up profiles on these executives in terms of what type of jobs they want to do in the future?
You know what? this is what I believe based on my experience in working at eBay, one of the largest e-commerce companies out there, working for AOL through an acquisition, one of the largest ad tech companies out there, and then working for Apple, one of the largest, apping companies out there. I believe that executives are no different, than folks shopping on e-commerce sites in many ways, which is you want to get relevant, targeted things sent to you, right? You don't want to be dealing with noise. So to answer your question, Chris, I don't think that executives appreciate or like getting approached by executive recruiters with dozens upon dozens of jobs that aren't a good fit for them. I think they would rather get approached for the jobs that are in line with where they want to take their career. And if they do receive those job opportunities, they're going to be more apt to engage with them. So to answer your question, what's pretty unique about ExecThread, among other things, is that, we know what job you're qualified for based on what jobs you're submitting into the network, because these are the jobs that executive recruiters are sending your way. So without ever looking at your LinkedIn profile, we know what jobs you're qualified for, which is pretty unique in and of itself. But then, because of our point system, where you can't get information from ExecThread in terms of job opportunities without giving into the network and without redeeming points, it's like frequent flyer miles, where you're going to use them only when you need to use them. So we know when our members are looking. We know how actively they're looking. More importantly, we know what they're looking for. We know if the executive in Chicago is interested in moving to LA. We know if the business development executive is interested in moving his or her career into marketing, or if the CTO is interested in moving his career into product management. We know if the small company executive is interested in moving back into a big company, or the big company executive is interested in going to a small company. This is all information that we know in an automated fashion today, in this structured data fashion on our members. And it's information that executive recruiters literally need to have phone calls and email threads with candidates to find out today, which the last time I checked, that's pretty, not scalable and not very efficient.
Yeah, we've seen attempts at this before, Joe, in terms of, I'm thinking about sites like the Ladders, and originally with the 100K stuff, and like sixfigurejobs.com, for example, come to mind. What makes you think you can kind of, to crack this niche? In other words, there was a few threads on Facebook about you on one of the talent product groups I belong to, and they're a little skeptical about the niche. So what makes you think you can crack this?
Yeah, a couple of things. So first off, as I mentioned before, I'm the target audience. I've been an operating executive for the past 20 years of my career, and I have, big company experience as well as small company experience. So, I've started companies that have been sold to Apple, AOL, worked as an executive at eBay. I'm the target audience, and I see the problem firsthand from both sides of the table. One is I'm targeted by executive recruiters, and oftentimes I'm not getting job opportunities from them that are a good fit for me, which is a problem. Secondly, I've worked with executive recruiters as a hiring manager. And, the percentage of time that you wind up with the right candidate is not the majority. So there's a problem in this industry, and I've seen it from both sides of the table. Secondly, I've done it before. This is my third startup. The last two have been very successful, and, I know the playbook. That being said, comparing it to, sites like the Ladders, or I don't even know the other sites you mentioned.
Six-figure.
I'm taking a fresh perspective. Yeah, I'm taking a fresh perspective. And the reality is that, those sites didn't offer anything differentiated or appealing to highly accomplished executives. Highly accomplished executives want to be approached with great targeted jobs, and the fact that we ExecThread are aggregating job opportunities that you cannot find on any other job site, any other job app, any other job platform out there. These are jobs that you can only find out about if you're lucky enough to be approached by the executive recruiter. Well, we figured out a unique way to aggregate them and create structured data around them, and in turn to find out a lot about our members in the process and use that information to the benefit of our members. So I think that the answer to your question, Chris, is, keeping our members first, focusing in on their needs. And these are the most important people in the process. It's not the recruiters, it's not the hiring manager, it's not the hiring company. The most important person in the process, and I think a lot of people forget this, is the person who has to go take that job and work at it for 5 years and be successful. That's the person who has the most to gain or lose. And right now, in the world of executive search, the executive is not being placed first. They're the ones most disadvantaged by the way that the executive search industry is set up. Mm-hmm. It's similar to, in my opinion, it's similar to when baseball didn't have free agency and you had to stick with one team, right? Executives can't find out about where the job opportunities are.
Yeah.
The information is being withheld from them. That's crazy in my opinion, and it needs to change, and we're going to change it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that scarcity of content you have will really be, a magnet to these executives. From my perspective, just being in the job board business as long as I have, so I think you're on the right track there. So you've raised $6.5 million in funding from several investors, including Canaan Partners and Javelin Venture. What was it that convinced them to invest? And I ask that more because you're kind of pre-revenue right now. You don't have a product yet, as far as I know, that you're selling to recruiters. So talk more about that, if you would.
Yeah. So I can't answer for my investors why they invested. I can only suspect. But so I incubated this for a good year before I raised money. I self-funded it. I worked on it as a side project. A lot of blood, a lot of sweat equity went into this. Mm-hmm. And I got to proof of concept with this before I ever raised a dime. And proof of concept to me was twofold. Threefold. One was that executives would actually share job opportunities that are being targeted to them, that they're not interested in pursuing, that they would actually share those job opportunities with a clearinghouse such as ExecThread. So we proved that. And we kind of nailed that. Secondly, many executives have found their next job through ExecThread, which is amazing if you think about it, considering one, we don't have an apply experience, and two, we're not currently playing matchmaker. We don't have a relationship with hiring companies and introducing them to candidates. We don't have a relationship with recruiters and connecting them to candidates. We're literally just sharing information with our members that they should have probably found out about otherwise if executive recruiting sourcing mechanisms were effective. And our members are getting jobs through the information they're finding out on ExecThread without us playing matchmaker yet. That's extremely validating and another proof point. And then lastly is, I think any investor is going to, look to see how committed the founder is. And, I'm someone who's been there before, done it, sold companies to Apple and AOL. And, I was at Apple and I had a big job at Apple. And, the fact that I left that job to go pursue ExecThread full time and jump in head first, I think, says a lot as well.
Yeah. By the way, what was your experience at Apple like? Briefly, if you could talk about that.
Apple's a great company. I was, we were fortunate to be acquired by them. I learned a lot at the company. It's a very successful company for a reason. There's a lot of smart people there doing, really great things, and I was fortunate enough to spend almost 3 years there. Nice.
You getting the iPhone 10, Joe?
My youngest son, who's a Apple aficionado, is begging me to, but I think it's more because he wants to play with it more than he wants to see me use it.
Nice. All right. Just a couple more questions for you, Joe, as we talk here about ExecThread. Can you define what is an executive in your eyes? I mean, who do you want to join the site?
Yeah, so I think one of the unique differentiators about ExecThread versus maybe some of the other supply of jobs, which again, our supply of jobs you can't find on any other site out there, including the ones you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But the other differentiator is, we don't take a mass viewpoint on this opportunity. Meaning, if you're an executive or you have executive level potential and you're an aspiring executive and you're on that path, you're someone that should be a part of this ExecThread network. If you're a college student or a recent grad or, early in your career or in a non-professional sort of job, it's probably not a good fit to be part of this network. So we've built very sophisticated software that enables us to, know a lot about you when you sign up for the service and apply for the service. And it's very analogous to when, you're applying for a credit card, right? You give them a little bit of information up front on yourself, and, they run a lot of sophisticated algorithmic-based calculations on you to determine whether they issue you credit or not and on what terms. Mm-hmm. We've built very similar software to help us figure out who's who, but then we layer it on with a human evaluation layer as well, where we not only take the recommendation that our software is suggesting for anyone who applies to ExecThread, but we also put anyone who wants to join ExecThread and their profile in front of current ExecThread members to weigh in on. And we take the viewpoint of both the algorithms plus humans to make determinations as to, whether you would benefit from a network like ExecThread. Yep. And I think, if you ask any ExecThread member, what is so appealing about it to them, in addition to getting access to proprietary jobs, they'll say that the jobs are amazing. They're the best I've ever seen out there, and the quality of your network is extremely high. Well, it's because the quality of the network is extremely high. You have very strong operating executives that are a part of this, all the way from C-level executives at public companies down to, directors and senior directors at private companies, at startups. And, we keep the quality of the network very high on both the member side as well as the supply side. And that's a unique differentiator for us.
Right. Okay. And the big question for me, Joe, is how will recruiters use this, and what's the plan to make money off of them?
Well, we're still early days. We just announced our funding. We just announced, the service that we've been operating kind of under the radar screen for the last year while we've been refining it and enhancing it and getting it to the point of being ready to announce, which we did last week. Mm-hmm. And now the next step for the company is to find product market fit and to start monetizing and commercializing it. I don't have, the specific answer for you today of what that commercial offering is going to exactly be, but I will say this, which is, the reason I started this is because I believe there's an inefficiency and a lack of data when it comes to, what professionals are being targeted with what jobs. And so anyone who's trying to match make between exec level job opportunities and openings and candidates that might be a really good fit for that job, whether it be executive search firms and executive recruiters, in-house recruiters, in-house talent acquisition folks, HR folks, or hiring managers. I think we're going to have a very interesting service to offer them based on very unique data. And we're not going to, we're not asking our executives, our members, to create profiles. We're not asking them for their resume or CV. We're not even asking them for their LinkedIn profile in the majority of cases. Instead, we know a lot about our members based on their engagement and their interaction with our content, which again are these proprietary jobs. And that tells us a lot about our members. And I think that information can be used to benefit our members. And if you put that information in the hands of people that are trying to find high quality talent, I think we can help them do their job better.
Well, certainly an interesting concept, Joe. I definitely wish you well. Last question, are you hiring at ExecThread?
Yeah, we are. We have around close to 10 job openings. And what's funny is, not many, if any of them, are kind of the level that, of the jobs that are in our network as it is. Mm-hmm. But I think we received 500 inbound, expressions of interest and inquiries for, I think, 7 or 8 job openings we had just in the last week alone. Wow. And that tells you, that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's great, it's very, it makes me feel good that people want to work for ExecThread, but, it's pretty, it's a lot of noise at the same time. So to figure out, who the best candidates are, there's a lot of companies trying to solve that problem kind of at lower levels. that's not the space we're in. But we are hiring, and we're a tech startup, and we're looking for really strong developers, data science folks, data management folks, and product management folks.
There you go. Well, Joe Meyer from ExecThread.com. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
That'll do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor. Remember to check out Jobs in the U.S. for your local hiring needs. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Google Play, or SoundCloud. Please leave a review if you like the content. I'd love to see some comments from the audience or mention us on social media with the hashtag RecTech. And follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell, or visit rectechmedia.com. You can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. Just a reminder, I'm a consultant that helps both HR tech firms and employers get more clients or candidates. Learn more at rectechmedia.com, and thanks for listening.